Good afternoon. My name is Leah Carter, Head of Events of Amber and BGA, and it's my pleasure to be hosting this webinar on introducing the Business Graduates Association, Leaders Never Stop Learning. I'm delighted to be joined today by a number of my esteemed colleagues: Andrew Main Wilson, CEO of Amber and BGA, Mark Stoddard, Director of Operations, Amber and BGA, and Victor Hedenberg, BGA Services Manager. Today, they will talk you through the ins and outs of our new BGA offering. Please feel free to send me questions throughout the webinar. I will happily read them during the Q&A section at the end. Now, without further ado, I will now hand over to Andrew Main Wilson, who will start this presentation.
Thank you very much, Leah, and good morning, everyone, to all of you in North America and South America, and good afternoon to all of you joining us from Europe and Asia. As Leah said, my name is Andrew Main Wilson. I'm the CEO of Amber and BGA, and I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes talking about the history and the vision of BGA right from our founding. So Amber BGA was founded 53 years ago in 1967, and we were founded, ironically, as the Business Graduates Association. 8 returning MBAs from America's Ivy League business schools wanted to make sure that the market, namely employers, understood the difference between an excellent MBA from a very good school and an average MBA from the not so good schools. So these 8 returning British graduates set up the BGA in order to get the best jobs and champion the standards of excellent business education. And all these guys were from Harvard, Wharton, and 2 of the other top schools. So that was in 1967, and 20 years later, in 1987, there was a decision to change the brand name from BGA to Amber, as the organization at that stage largely consisted of MBA members, and we decided to accredit a lot of MBA schools. And in the 30 years since then, Amber has grown as a brand, and Amber now accredits 265 schools in over 70 countries, and also very importantly is a consumer brand for the MBA and some master's students and graduates of those business schools. So Amber, as at this morning, accredits 265 top business schools and has 40,000 student and graduate members, all of whom are from Amber accredited schools and all of whom get their membership free of charge. So just to explain the difference between now the big launch of BGA, which is the biggest launch in our history, and Amber, just to explain the distinction between the 2 brands. So Amber is and will remain the only specialist accreditation and membership brand for business schools' flagship product, which is the MBA, both supporting the schools and the students. And we have taken a decision to further strengthen the Amber quality brand in the marketplace, that we will limit the number of Amber schools that can be accredited to 300 or 300 and a few. So that's Amber's position, very strong in the marketplace. It's the best known brand in the marketplace. If you look at the last 2 biannual EFMD surveys, where they ask 1,000 potential MBA students, which is the most important and the most valuable accreditation brand, we were very humbled that 44% in both cases said Amber was, which was more than Equus, EPAS and AACSB combined. So Amber is much more than a worthy organization. It is a known consumer brand as well. Now moving on to BGA, which is our major new focus. BGA will operate to all the standards of integrity and quality of Amber, and like Amber, it will be a business-to-business and consumer brand. So our vision is to be the leading global movement, the leading global brand for responsible management, positive practical impact, and lifelong learning. So it's a very new, modern brand, and hopefully you can see even now from our logos the style and the excellence to which we want to run the brand. So in terms of the detail, it's a new brand for business schools and students and graduate members. There's a dual emphasis on practical, entrepreneurial, ready for work students, being educated, along with a very ideal view in terms of training and development for responsible management and sustainability. For 2.5 years, up until the middle of last year, I was chairman of United Nations Prime, Principles for Responsible Management Education. And it's very clear to me now that the whole area of responsible management is becoming more and more important to students, to consumers, to corporations, and to the media. And we feel this is exactly the right time to launch this new modern brand. Unlike Amber, which focuses on the MBA programs only and some general management in master's programs, BGA focuses on the entire school portfolio. So if you are a BGA school and you go through our 3 stages, your BGA membership, validation, accreditation covers all your programs from undergraduate through to postgraduate. And unlike other brands in the marketplace, there are 3 levels of engagement. You can become a BGA member. You can then apply for and succeed in getting validation. And then the final stage, you can apply for and succeed in getting accreditation. And in the spirit of clarity and transparency, we're almost marketing those just like the leading global airline groups in terms of bronze, silver, and gold status with us. Okay, so that's all from me for the moment. Happy to take any questions a little bit later, and I'm now pleased to hand over to our Director of Operations, who'll go into more detail, Mark Stoddard.
Thank you very much, Andrew. The first thing that I would like to talk about is the BGA Charter, which is the linchpin of all our activities. And it expands on the 3 pillars of BGA, which are responsible management, impact, and lifelong learning. So the first element of the Charter, I suppose, is one that is the basic requirement of any business school, which is to meet the demands of the economy, contributing to economic growth and development, and driving social transformation. We also very much believe in the principles of CSR ethics and sustainability, and reflecting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that Andrew has just talked about. We believe in the importance of good governance, institutional sustainability, and integrity. We focus on generating value by building tangible connections with other academic institutions. We champion the importance of continuous improvement. We praise and respect the values of impact, innovation, and excellence. We think that it's very important to have the involvement, inclusion, and respect of all stakeholders. We believe strongly in the principles of equality and diversity. And we also think that it's very important to have strong focus on graduate employability and corporate relations. So now I would like to talk a little bit about the key distinctive features of BGA. And I think the best way to do this is to look at how we distinguish ourselves from other similar organisations. Firstly, I should talk a little bit about how BGA is different from our other membership and accreditation brand, Amber. And the first and most obvious of these is that BGA is a whole school membership and accreditation body and is not program specific. In fact, I think if you look through our criteria and our materials, you will find no mention of the MBA there specifically within the BGA materials. The second element is that it is very much a continuous improvement process, where the accreditation process itself is designed to improve the quality of business schools and their activities. This differs a little bit from Amber, which is more of a quality enhancement process, whereby you have to display particular elements of excellence before being accepted into the accreditation process. And the third difference between BGA and Amber is that BGA is very much an inclusive network, which is for business schools that believe in the BGA Charter, and it is very much a membership first organisation. So for Amber, we've always had the belief that you can only join Amber, whether as an individual, a student, a graduate, or as a business school, once you are accredited or you have studied on an accredited programme. Whereas BGA, we're trying to build a network of people who believe in the Charter, and membership comes before any of the other elements of the engagement opportunities. So next, I would like to point out some of BGA's key differentiators from other business school membership and accreditation organisations. The first element that I think is important is our explicit focus on responsible management and the fact that we specifically reference the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals within our accreditation criteria. The second element is our focus on impact, and we have very much a holistic definition of impact, and we want to see impact being achieved in a variety of different ways. And we have developed a continuous impact model, which is the cornerstone of the accreditation process, and I will talk about this in more detail later on. We also have a strong emphasis on lifelong learning, and this is best exemplified by our individual membership option for students and later for graduates, which will support in networking and career enhancement for these individuals. This will be free to students of BGA member schools. And we also have what we believe is a unique validation concept, which we see as a leaner, faster interim quality assurance process, which fits between membership and accreditation. And this can be undertaken on a desktop basis, where a school produces a portfolio of evidence to demonstrate that it is meeting or is working to meet all the elements of the BGA Charter. So at this moment, I would like to introduce BGA Services Manager, Victor Hedenberg, to talk a little bit more about the details of the membership option.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be on board for this webinar. My name is Victor Hedenberg, and I am the BGA Services Manager indeed, responsible for all daily relations with current and incoming schools and delivery of our exclusive membership services. So we know it's a very competitive world for business schools today who need to efficiently demonstrate that they can give students credible career opportunities and lifelong learning opportunities to help them along the way. Similarly, schools also want to showcase that their graduates are ready for the demands placed by employers and that the students come equipped with both the hard and soft skills so they can make a tangible difference within the organizations they work in. So at the end of the day, validation and accreditation is a way for schools to be transparent, allows them to credibly demonstrate their impact on stakeholders, their social responsibility practice, and so forth. But accreditation is a journey, and not every school in the book will be ready to begin accreditation right away. Often they may require external consultation and feedback with the help of experts, and that's exactly what we've done with the BGA membership proposition, which I'll explain in a bit more detail now. So at the very first tier, BGA membership grants schools bronze status and serves as an entry point for business schools to join the organization, and it offers 5 primary services. The first one is consultancy. So the consultancy service is primarily aimed at helping business schools develop their impact metrics, identify key areas of improvement within the school and its programs, and support the school in meeting the BGA accreditation criteria. And the way we achieve this is through something called a desktop review. Now, real quickly, a desktop review is a written document, almost like a business plan, which highlights areas within a school or program that need improvement and lists some of the suggested approaches and best practices. It also highlights what the school needs to accomplish internally to meet the BGA accreditation criteria successfully, which helps the school identify potential issues before ever beginning the accreditation process. And the review is completed by the BGA Accreditation Board, which comprises of business school experts with decades of experience in business and management education. Now, the second service we offer is mentorship. So upon completion of the desktop review, a school can engage into our mentorship services, where BGA assigns a mentor, typically a dean or a business school expert with significant experience, who supports the school in strategizing and implementing crucial changes for the improvement of the school, as well as meeting BGA accreditation criteria. Mentorship allows for a more personable approach to supporting the school. And while the mentor will help the school in terms of meeting our accreditation criteria, the mentor also plays a crucial role in helping the school with other needs, such as faculty development, defining an institutional strategy, improving program course content, and so forth. And we're proud to say that we will be leveraging much of the expertise in terms of people and resources from the AMBA side to deliver some really, really impactful mentorship services that can make a measurable difference to business schools. Thirdly, we have our events. And our events is really the heart of where all networking and international collaboration takes place between our schools. BGA, together with AMBA, hosts a distinctive assortment of conferences around the world designed primarily to facilitate effective networking and sharing of ideas, research, and best practice. In fact, next Saturday, we will be hosting our very first BGA workshop in Guangzhou, China, which will focus on faculty development and teaching practices. And in May, we have our upcoming global conference for deans and directors in Istanbul, which is our leading event bringing in over 200 deans and directors from across the world. And this is a great opportunity to meet with both the AMBA and BGA community of schools and take part in some fantastic sessions highlighting the effects of artificial intelligence on management education and what business schools are doing to adapt to the recent innovations being made in AI. Number 4 on the list is our quality assurance services. So as you guys know, schools who do become BGA members can later commence either to become validated or accredited by BGA, provided, of course, that the school is ready to begin the quality assurance process. And schools must become members first before they can commence validation or accreditation. And lastly on this list is the student and graduate membership platform. So BGA member schools will also gain access to the student and graduate membership platform, which is in essence is a alumni club of students who are seeking to develop their skills, network with a bigger audience of similarly minded young professionals, and receive access to tools and services such as our Career Development Center that will help them in their job search as well as career progression. So the platform is completely free to students who belong to a BGA member school, and it will be launched on the 13th of May this year. And those are the services that we provide on the membership tier. And I would just like to say that I'm really pleased that since our launch on the 21st of January, we've had close to 20 business schools join us as member institutions, which is just absolutely amazing. And it showcases how passionate these schools are about increasing their impact on society while also incorporating stronger social responsibility practices. And as you can see here on this slide, we have a strong caliber of schools that have already joined us, including Aberdeen Business School, Rotterdam School of Management, Aston Business School, MIT, and the Hanken School of Economics, just to name a few of them. And what you'll notice quickly, even in the first month and a half of being active, is how BGA has signed on an incredibly diverse group of schools ranging from Japan, Puerto Rico, China, and Uruguay. And what this shows us is that the push for more socially conscious institutions and individuals is not an isolated event, but really a global phenomenon where people are finally waking up to the importance of ethics, sustainability, and cognitive diversity, and that business schools can play a crucial role in teaching and imparting values through the combination of business courses with the liberal arts. The high uptake also implies that schools recognize the need to further showcase their impact on stakeholders, especially students and employers. So before I hand this back to Mark, I really quickly just want to let you guys know how an institution becomes a member. And there are 3 main requirements to joining BGA. One is a filled out application form stating the mission of your institution, programs offered, its current status, as well as desired outcome of joining BGA. Number 2 is 3 years of financial statements, which can come in the form of an income statement or balance sheet. And 3 is proof of degree awarding powers recognized by a local or central government. The documents are submitted to our BGA accreditation board to review the material and come to decision within a two-week period. And should the school become accepted, it is invoiced its annual membership fee, which is £4,000 sterling on a year. But we do offer a discount to institutions located in price-sensitive regions. Now, that's enough of me for now. I will hand you back over to Mark, who will go into more depth concerning the key differentiation of the BGA accreditation criteria and process.
Okay, thank you, Victor. So all elements of the accreditation criteria, as with everything else at BGA, are based on the 9 elements of the BGA Charter, which we outlined earlier. And the accreditation criteria are organized into 5 key areas. The first is the institution, and we look at the mission and strategy of the school, the leadership, diversity, its connectedness with other institutions, its impact on responsible management, and its available resources. We look at the faculty strategy plan, the research and teaching, and the diversity of the faculty body. We look at the students, we look at how in which they are marketed to, how students are recruited, and how students are looked after, and the diversity of the student body. We look at the programs, we look at the level, the design, the feedback loops, the learning outcomes, any innovation in program design. We look at the quality and the consistency of assessment, delivery, and the way in which responsible management is included into the curriculum. And at the program level, we do look during the accreditation process at 2 sample programs to provide us with evidence of the effectiveness of the quality assurance processes outlined in the BGA criteria. And the 5th area is impact, where we look at careers, alumni, and value creation. And the impact I'll talk about in a little bit more detail later in terms of the continuous impact model. You will notice that we don't have a separate section in the criteria for responsible management. We did this very consciously, although it is clearly identified throughout the criteria and integrated throughout. We did not think it should be treated as a silo or an add-on, but we thought it should be treated as a central activity through which all the business school activities work. And so in that respect, we thought integrating it through the criteria was a better approach. So as a continuous improvement process, BGA strongly supports and encourages the consultative nature of the accreditation process. And we see it as far more than an audit, and actually we think of it as excellent value for money consultancy. In order to provide you with this consultancy, we use experienced assessors, all from either the AMBA or BGA accredited schools. All these BGA assessors are provided with substantial training so that they fully understand what is expected of them in terms of the audit and the consultancy process, and they should therefore be fully professional in the way that they carry out their activities. And there is a mentorship process ingrained within the accreditation scheme to support schools throughout their accreditation journey, but in particular with the generation of their continuous impact model. This is a key cornerstone of the accreditation process, and it is designed to assess impact in a holistic and practical way beyond the mostly academic metrics traditionally used in the business school community. Through this process, a business school will work with the mentor to identify metrics, measure these over time, and develop feedback loops to ensure that these impact metrics are improving the activities and quality of the school. So some of the areas that we would look at are society, an impact on society, the intent and the way in which that filters through the mission and the strategy of the school. We look at graduate achievement and the way in which graduates go out and achieve impacts in society through the benefit of their qualifications. We look at wider value creation and the way in which this can support societal growth. We look at scholarship and the way in which faculty outcomes and output can develop real tangible impact. And we look at the way in which this impact can add value to the ecosystem of the business school in its environment. So I'd now like to hand back to Victor, who will talk a little bit more about some of the other work that BGA is doing in a variety of areas.
Thank you, Mark. Glad to be back. Now, another aspect of BGA that we are very proud of, and an area where we are putting considerable amount of resources, is research. Our first research project, which you can already read about in our most recent edition of Business Impact, is about business schools and their impact on closing the poverty gap. And this research is being carried out in multiple regions, where it will provide robust, measurable, and accurate data where we can bring to light the positives of business school activity, but also some potential weaknesses and challenges that they may experience. So the findings for this research will be released in March. Then we will be looking at future applications and enrollment data, rankings and their effects on institutions, career opportunities, and the future of business schools. And then stay tuned to our newsletter as well, and Business Impact Hub on our website to find out the latest information regarding published research. And as I mentioned a bit earlier, upcoming is our global conference in May. This will be taking place between the 13th and the 15th of May. And you can expect roughly 200 deans and directors from all over the world to take part. You can find all events on our website. Just head over to our events page. Here you will not only find the physical events, but also any webinars that we are launching as well or running, even past webinars that you can watch at any time. Another event I just wanted to highlight as well coming up in July is our Business School Professionals Conference. And this one is a bit more aimed towards program managers, alumni managers, and careers managers at your school. And we have separate sessions for all of them that focus more on the operational aspects of a business school. Finally, if there are any other questions with regards to our membership services, you can just head on to our website and download our membership brochure, where you'll hopefully find all the information you're looking for. And that's it for me. Over to you now, Leah.
Thank you very much, Victor, Mark, and Andrew, for that very insightful presentation. I'm now going to start with the questions. So first up, what has the general response to BGA been thus far?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Leah. So far, the response has been very positive. What I've noticed from the schools that I've interacted with thus far, starting already back in January when we were at the Gaidar Forum in Moscow, was that schools have a need for innovation. And one of the things that they've noticed from previous accreditation requirements of perhaps other organizations is that they prevent the schools from innovating properly because there's a lot of quantitative metrics and prescriptive, just simply because of the prescriptive nature of the accreditation, forcing them to abandon certain ideas that could help them innovate. And what we're trying to do, of course, is completely the opposite and look at the outcome of the institution's measures. So from that aspect, schools have been very, very positive. And secondly, what they've also brought to light is the fact that they're very much eager to improve in the whole social responsibility aspects. As you probably know, from 2007, 2008, schools got quite a bad rap for being somehow responsible for creating the managers who later led to the financial crisis in 07 and 08. And schools are trying to rebrand themselves as much more socially responsible institutions that combine ethics into all their courses, not only courses, but also, of course, extracurricular activities. So far, it's been very, very positive from my engagements.
Yeah, and I think one of the very positive things from our side is the number of AMBER schools that are not only being very supportive of BGA, but actually wanting to join as members. And we know that after our conference in Istanbul, our Global Deans and Directors Conference in May, we'll have a lot more AMBER schools on. So the way we're heading, although we wouldn't reveal our sales targets, we will beat our sales target for the first year within 3 or 4 months. So that response has been very encouraging.
Right, lovely. Next question. Is there, and if so, what is the preliminary strategy plan for building global brand awareness for BGA, not only for institution awareness, but also for stakeholder awareness, prospective students, employers, etc., to compete with other accreditation brands that are seeking global position?
Okay, very good question. I mean, we are, by background, and certainly as CEO, my background is in building multinational brands like Thomas Cook and Citibank, going back over the years. So we built the AMBER brand to be by far the best known brand by students and graduates in the marketplace. Not because we're better than others. We're good. I'm good friends with the directors of AACSB, and we have a good relationship with EFMD. But the main reason that we've got much higher brand awareness is because we are a consumer brand for students and graduates as members as well. Now, if you take a typical school where they're AMBER accredited, they've probably got somewhere between 80 and 350 MBA students in any one year. And we've built the AMBER brand fast on that awareness. Given that we're now whole school membership validation and accreditation, when we have a school join us, their students and graduates are entitled to free membership of BGA, and that could be 4,000 or 5,000 students and graduates in one go from one school. So we are very confident about building that brand awareness. Our marketing is of a high standard, and our next phase, once we've captured our original schools in the first year, is to promote very strongly to employers. And in fact, we're the only brand that does a big annual AMBA Careers and Talent Forum, where we bring together the major multinational employers and the alumni relations and career services managers of our schools. So again, we'll be replicating that for BGA. And of course, it'll be on a much larger scale because the number of students involved and the number of schools involved is much higher than AMBA.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Andrew. We have another question. Will the process for schools with AMBA accredited programs be easier or lighter than for schools without AMBA accredited programs?
Okay, thank you, Leah. So yes, we certainly will be developing or have developed a process that makes it easier for AMBA schools to go through the BGA accreditation process, partly because there are a number of synergies between the AMBA process and the BGA process. So for a start, we will already have looked at a substantial element of the portfolio in terms of the MBA programs through the AMBA accreditation, and so that will cover one element for the BGA. I think it's also very important to point out that BGA is not different from AMBA in the fact that it has a focus on responsible management or impact. These are areas that have been fundamental to the AMBA accreditation process for many years. It's just that they are focused obviously specifically on the MBA, but we already have a good sense from the AMBA schools of what their commitment to social responsibility is and what their intentions and measurements are with regards to impact for the MBA. So there are certainly a number of synergies between the AMBA and BGA process that will enable us to offer a slightly shortened route for AMBA accredited schools to go through the BGA accreditation process.
Could I just add there to what Mark said, that if you're not an AMBA school, the process is rigorous, as you would want from us and expect, but it's also faster than many other people's processes. So if you take your 3 tiers, membership is obviously immediate. You benefit as soon as you join. It will be possible to achieve validation within 6 months at the fastest, but that's the timescale we've set there. And it will be possible to go from membership to accreditation in its fastest possible mode in 2 years. So a rigorous process, but much quicker than other brands in the marketplace.
Thank you very much for that, Andrew. We have another question. The terms positive and responsible have been used a great deal. These are value-based adjectives. Who or what determines what is positive or responsible?
Okay, a very good and very fair question. And if you're not careful, those terms become meaningless. I learned from my time as chairman of Prime that it's important to try and get quantitative measures on these. And of all the criteria we've looked at around the world, and we looked at many, the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals are increasingly well understood by corporates, by media, by students, and to be fair, increasingly now by business schools. And we feel that although it's not our only measure, checking progress and intent against the key elements of the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals is a good way in terms of checks and balances of seeing what people are actually trying to do across that wide range of metrics of socially responsible management and sustainability goals. So we think that is as good a checklist as any. And we're not expecting people to make progress against all 17, but we're certainly going to be looking at people making progress against a wide range of them.
And thank you, Andrew. Just to add to that, I mean, one of the things that we're trying very hard to steer clear of is from being too prescriptive about anything really with BGA, and certainly with regards to responsible management, but also with regards to impact as well. We're not setting the definitions of what these things are. We are asking schools to convince an assessment team during through the documentation they produce in advance and during the accreditation visit that what they are doing meets the spirit of responsible management, meets the spirit of sustainability and the spirit of impact. So that's very much how we've designed everything that we do.
Lovely, thank you very much for that, Andrew and Mark. Another question, following on from that, and how is positive and responsible measured, particularly as you're focusing on a global audience?
Well, I don't think we've really talked about things like positive and responsible being measured. I don't think we've really said that at all. I mean, as Andrew's outlined already, if you take something like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, I think there are certain things that you can measure with regards to that. And I think that's, there are some fairly standardized terms and standardized metrics that you could use to measure progress against those things. But we are not looking to reduce everything down to measurable metrics, numbers, and growth in certain ways.
Let's take some practical examples, though, where we would be very clear on something. So, for example, let's take a school in sub-Saharan Africa. We'd be looking for several things there. Evidence that the school is involved in local community programs, evidence that, as well as going to leading companies to get good commercial experience, either on placements or visits, there is a clear indication of working in local communities and bringing in some sustainable business ideas. Evidence in the areas of scarce resources, such as water, that projects have been done in terms of water conservation. For example, I was recently in Niger with a school, and I was supporting their students on bringing in solar panel electricity driven energy into remote parts of the Sahara Desert. So there are some very clear indications. Another one would be in areas where women are finding it difficult to compete on an equal footing, to see what schools are doing to champion equality and opportunities for young female entrepreneurs. So there are some pretty clear areas that we can check and monitor progress over time.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Mark and Andrew. I have another question. Do you see PRME membership as being a useful a useful precursor to BGA, or are they two very separate things?
Yeah, well, good question. We certainly wouldn't persecute anyone if they were a Prime member. So let me just reassure you on that. Yes, I think Prime membership is a good indicator. We're obviously loyal supporters of Prime in that regard. But the difference here is we're looking for the actual evidence, as well as this whole area of entrepreneurial and practical management teaching. So it's not just sustainability and responsible management that we're looking at. The other area in which BGA is very different is it's also an organization for students and graduates. And I know that the United Nations were always saying to me when I was chairman of Prime, one thing we really like and admire about Amber is you're not just championing these causes with the business school, but you're actually supporting the students and graduates. And if you really want to see the impact difference, you need to be an organization that has the students and graduates as members as well.
Yes, from a very practical point of view, I mean, the reports that schools are supposed to produce for Prime, showing their development in terms of their responsibility and their responsible management, that would certainly be a very, very good evidence base for BGA accreditation. So yes, I mean, I think that would be a very, very useful element to the process, but it's certainly not an essential or necessary part.
Thank you very much, Mark and Andrew. We have another question. While recognizing that the journey for each institution is unique, what do you anticipate an average timeline to be for institutions moving completely through to gold status?
Well, we've said that the minimum journey time from membership to accreditation is 2 years. That is mostly because of the time it takes to develop the continuous impact model and to measure changes over time, and to show that there are feedback loops developing that are working and making a difference. So I think that is the minimum time. Most schools will probably take between 2 to 4 years, but there is no maximum period that we have set at this point in time. So I'd say anywhere between 2 to 4, possibly 5 years for the journey. But obviously that's also dependent on the resources that a school can put into it. And much like Amber, the major rate determining steps are really with the school. How fast can they go, with the constraint of the continuous impact model being part of that.
I would just add too, that in the spirit of being a customer-focused organization, what we're trying to do is maximize the value to you as a business school of your membership validation accreditation, whilst minimizing any unnecessary bureaucracy and paperwork. So we're trying to be a fast, sleek, modern brand where the demands we have are high, but we're going to try and avoid schools being caught up in unnecessary bureaucracy. It's all about impact, from the word go. And of course, the minute you join as a member, you're totally free to use the BGA brand logo and identify yourself as part of the BGA family. And of course, you can then, if you move forward within that 6 months or 12 months to the validation stage, you can then also use the silver BGA validation logo as well. So you don't have to wait until you're fully accredited to be benefiting from the kudos of being a member of the BGA family.
Thank you very much, Mark and Andrew. Will BGA measure MBA programs already accredited by Amber?
Yes, so as I've sort of outlined already, if you are an Amber accredited school, that will certainly form part of the process and will be looked on positively in that sense. So as I talked about earlier, we will look through the BGA process at 2 sample programs. If you are already Amber accredited, one of those sample programs will be the MBA. So that enables us to speed up the process for Amber accredited schools and to keep it a little bit leaner in that respect. So absolutely, we will be considering the Amber accredited MBA through part of the BGA process. Although I do want to reiterate that there is no mention of the MBA anywhere in the BGA accreditation process or any of the BGA materials. So there is no need to have an MBA, let alone an accredited MBA, to embark on the BGA process.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Mark. A next question for you. Obviously, every school cannot have the same kind of outreach and impact. Do you take the school's context into account to determine its impact and its bearing?
Yeah, absolutely. So we know that in BGA we'll have some of the most famous business schools in the world, and we'll also have some of the most wonderfully entrepreneurial schools in some of the world's poorest countries who make a real difference. And I think the great thing about the BGA network is it's a network of business schools, students and graduates based on shared ideals. And that can embrace the world's most famous and respected business schools on the one hand, and some of the most incredible stories from schools making a real difference in countries under very difficult circumstances. And we're very proud that the network spread will be that wide.
Yeah, so the continuous impact model itself will be about working with the mentor to develop the impact metrics that mean the most for the school, and that will obviously relate to the school's mission, the school's vision, the school's strategy, but also the school's location and its constraints and its funding and all those sorts of elements. So the continuous impact model will look different for every single business school because of those elements, and a big part of the mentorship process will be to develop those and to make sure that they are realistic, that they are measurable, but also that they are stretching to the extent that it provides a rigorous part of the accreditation process.
Thank you very much for that, Mark and Andrew. And then our last question, How many member schools do you see BGA having in 5 years?
Okay, it's perhaps quite ironic that we've been very specific about AMBER for strategic reasons, but we do not have a particular figure in mind. It's going to be a network of schools who passionately share the same vision, but we have not either expanded or restricted ourselves to a particular number at this stage. We've set ourselves budgets and we're very, very confident of achieving those budgets, but we've not put an upper limit on the size of the network. We might do in a year or so's time, but it seems crazy at such an early stage to limit yourself or restrict yourself to a particular size.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Andrew. So we've had another question come in. Earlier in the presentation, you mentioned many institutions that have already affiliated through membership. What has been the geographic spread of BGA school membership so far? Which continental regions?
Thank you for that, Leah. So far, we've got institutions in South America, India, Europe. We've got institutions in Asia as well, in China in particular. So it's quite a wide spread in terms of where these institutions are coming from. I've been talking to schools as well in other regions, including North America, Australia, New Zealand. We've got institutions really from everywhere showing interest in this. And as I said a bit earlier on in the presentation, for us, we couldn't be more proud to say that these schools are showing an initiative to be part of a network that really stresses these values. So it doesn't matter where the school seems to be coming from. They all share these values. And I mentioned IEM from Uruguay is a member as well. And one of the leading Chinese institutions is a member now. And we're expecting several more. There's several more right now in the pipeline who are in the application stage at the moment. So we're just very eager to see how this network's going to grow from really all corners of the world.
Yeah, the AMBER network of 265 schools operate in over 70 countries. Without a doubt, we see the BGA network as being at least 70 and probably closer to 100 schools when it's mature in a few years' time.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for those answers, Victor and Andrew and Mark. That is us done now. We've got no more questions. So thank you very much to all of the attendees who dialed in. I hope you found the webinar informative and useful. If you have any questions which you feel that you didn't get answered or needed a bit more depth, you can reach out to the team.
Yeah, thank you all very much for your time. And we're delighted to hear from you and delighted to welcome you all into the BGA network. Really appreciate you joining us.
Also, the webinar will be available to be shared post-event. So you can share it with colleagues, or you can just reflect on some of the things which we discussed in a bit more detail. You can find the email addresses of the team on the website. Thank you and have a great afternoon.